Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. The napkin dispenser was crooked. That's what I was staring at when I realized the woman 2 tables over was my wife. Not someone who looked like her. No, it was Delaney. Same forest green coat, same chipped pinky nail, same habit of twisting her hair when she was nervous. Except she wasn't nervous. She was smiling, laughing, leaning in close to a man who wasn't me. I didn't plan this. I didn't follow her. I didn't suspect anything. I was only there because I forgot my laptop charger at that cafe the night before. What are the odds? The guy she was with had that confident loser look. You know the type, button down too tight, sunglasses still on indoors, talking with his hands like he's on stage. And my wife, she looked like someone I didn't recognize. Her eyes were lit up. Her smile was soft. She was brushing invisible lint off his sleeve. I froze. I couldn't move. Not out of anger, but out of this dull, dragging disbelief. Like watching your favorite movie glitch halfway through and realizing it's been taped over by someone else's home video. That morning, she'd kissed me goodbye, told me to feed the cat and not forget to call the plumber. She even packed me lunch. And now, here she was, eating cake with a stranger like none of that mattered. So I wrote something. I took a receipt from my wallet, flipped it over, and scribbled in all caps, "Don't come home." I stood, walked past them, and dropped the note next to her tea. Her head turned, eyes wide, but she didn't say a word. Neither did I. I didn't go home. I didn't cry. I didn't even check my phone. But the next morning, when I finally did, I found out what she did next. And it was disgusting. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a minute. I laid on the old couch in the spare room of my brother's apartment, staring at the cracked ceiling, trying to convince myself I hadn't just watched my wife of 7 years flirt like a teenager in broad daylight. My phone buzzed around midnight, then again at 2:16 a.m. and 3:41. The messages piled up. "Where are you? Curtis, this isn't funny. Call me now." I didn't respond. I didn't even read them. I just turned the phone face down and pulled the blanket over my head like a child afraid of monsters. Only the monster wasn't under the bed. She was probably sitting in our kitchen wondering why the dishwasher hadn't been unloaded. At 7:05 a.m., I finally got up. I was a wreck, unshaven, still in yesterday's clothes, mouth dry like paper. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my phone for a full 5 minutes before I unlocked it. 22 missed calls, 9 voicemails, and 1 text that nearly made me throw the phone across the room. It was a photo of her in our living room, holding the "Don't come home" note. Her expression twisted into a smirk. Underneath, just one line. "I'm already here, sweetheart. Guess you should have locked the door." I felt sick. Not because she ignored the note, I expected that. But the smugness, the audacity, like it was all a joke. Like I was the irrational one. The coward. The joke. I called my neighbor, David. Asked if he'd seen her come in. He told me she showed up around 11 p.m. in an Uber, carrying wine and laughing loudly on the phone. She looked celebratory, he said. That word hit me like a punch in the gut. Celebratory? Celebrating what? Getting caught? I finally listened to her voicemails. The first few were the typical concerned wife act. "Kurt, are you okay? Please tell me you're safe." But by voicemail 5, the tone had changed. She was angry, defensive. Then, by voicemail 8, she was practically growling. "You don't get to punish me, Curtis. You left without saying a word. Like a coward. What kind of man does that?" That one stuck with me. What kind of man? I didn't know how to respond. I didn't even know who she was anymore. But I was about to find out. Because what she did next turned this into something far darker than a simple affair. The silence in my brother's apartment was so loud it made my ears ring. I just sat there, phone in hand, staring at that photo of her grinning with the note I'd written like it was a prank she'd outsmarted. I kept thinking, is this the same woman who once cried at our wedding because she thought she didn't deserve me? The woman who wore my old hoodie when she was sick because it smelled like home? I used to know Delaney like the back of my hand. Now it felt like she'd been wearing a mask for years, and I was only seeing the real face underneath. Smug, cold, unbothered. I didn't go back to the house. Couldn't. I didn't want to be in the same walls we painted together. Sleep in the bed where she laid next to me while plotting God knows what. I needed clarity. So I called Evan, a mutual friend of ours, or at least I thought he was neutral. I asked him straight up if he'd seen anything, heard anything, if he ever noticed Delaney being off. He hesitated. That silence told me everything. Then, in the quietest voice, he said, I didn't want to get involved, man. But yeah, she's been acting different. She used to talk about you all the time. Lately, not so much. Last month, she was out late a few times and said it was girls' night. But I saw her once. She was with that same guy you described. He picked her up in a black Jeep. I felt a weird kind of heat rush up my neck. Not anger, not sadness. Something in between. A slow, rising dread. I asked Evan if he remembered what day it was. He checked. March 4th. My birthday. While I was eating takeout alone at home that night, thinking she was at a spa with her friends, she was out with him, laughing in some car, probably mocking me. That was the night she came home and said she was exhausted, and kissed me on the forehead without even looking me in the eyes. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat back and realized something awful. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It wasn't some emotional connection that just happened. This was a second life. One she'd built brick by brick behind my back. While I thought we were saving for a second honeymoon, I still hadn't told anyone in my family. Not even my mom, who kept texting to ask why Delaney wasn't answering her calls. I didn't have the words. But that night, Delaney finally messaged me again. This time, she didn't bother with an apology. No, what she sent me next was something that changed everything and made my stomach turn. Came through at 11:14 p.m. A single message. No text, just a video. The thumbnail alone made my fingers go numb. It was filmed in our bedroom. I recognized the duvet, the dresser I built, my framed college diploma hanging slightly crooked in the background. For a second, I thought maybe she was sending some kind of apology, something emotional. I don't know why I let myself hope, but it wasn't that. The video opened with Delaney in a black tank top, legs tucked under her, laughing. Not nervously, not regretfully, but freely, like she was proud of something. The camera shifted, and then I saw him. The same smug guy from the café, shirt off, sitting right next to her on the edge of our bed. Our bed. The one I had literally bought with 2 maxed-out credit cards and spent weeks trying to pay off. She turned to him and said, "Say hi to Curtis." Like it was a twisted game. The man chuckled, raised a glass of wine, and said, "Sorry, man. She was just too good to pass up." I paused it right there. My ears were ringing again. My throat felt like it was closing. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream, couldn't even cry. I just sat there, paralyzed, as everything I thought was sacred collapsed into ash. She had recorded it, edited it, sent it to me deliberately. No shame, no guilt, just pure, calculated cruelty. Like this was her way of winning. Not just cheating, but humiliating me in the most personal way imaginable. I wanted to throw my phone, break it, burn the bed, burn the whole house. Instead, I saved the video, not out of spite, but out of instinct. I knew if this ever went to divorce court, this might be the one undeniable thing I could use. Still, the idea that I had to think like that about the woman I once called home shattered something in me I can't explain. Minutes later, another message came in. "You always wanted honesty. There it is." And just like that, she went offline. I didn't reply. Couldn't. There was nothing left to say. I stared at the blinking cursor in our old text thread for a while, wondering what the old me would have typed. Probably something spineless like, "Why?" or "Can we talk?" But that version of me had just been buried by the truth. What haunted me wasn't just the betrayal. It was how easy it looked for her. How rehearsed. How cruel. And yet, I hadn't seen the worst of it. Because the very next morning, a knock on the door made it clear that Delaney wasn't done destroying what was left of my life. The knock came at 8:42 a.m. I remember the time because I had just forced myself out of bed after another night of staring at the ceiling like it held the answers. I thought maybe it was a package. Maybe my brother forgot his keys again. What I didn't expect was to open the door and see a woman I'd never met standing there, holding a manila envelope like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Her eyes were puffy, mascara smudged, lips tight with hesitation. She looked like she hadn't slept either. "You're Curtis, right?" she asked, voice shaky. "I'm Amara." I blinked. "Do I know you?" Her face twisted. Not in anger, but something more painful, guilt. "No," she said softly. "But I know her, and I know what she's been doing." She handed me the envelope. I didn't want to take it, but I did. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were photos, printed, high-resolution photos. Dozens of them. Delaney and the same guy from the video, but in places I'd never imagined. A cabin. A beach. Even in what looked like an office. Some dated months ago. Others from last week. In one, she was wearing my sweatshirt. In another, she was in our car in the driver's seat, but he was kissing her neck from the passenger side. I nearly dropped the envelope. "Why are you giving me this?" I asked, barely holding my voice together. Mara looked down, eyes glassy. "Because I found out 3 days ago that my fiancé, that man, is cheating on me with your wife." I recognized her from his phone. I did some digging, and I couldn't live with it. Not after what they did to us. Her words cut deeper than I expected. Not because they were cruel, but because they mirrored everything I had just been trying to suppress. The feeling that I wasn't just betrayed. I was erased, replaced, mocked. Mara wasn't done. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a flash drive. "There's more. Videos, screenshots, messages between them. If you ever need proof, for court or just to remind yourself you're not crazy." I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, stunned. A broken man with a stranger's mercy in his hands. Then she whispered something I'll never forget. She said you were emotionally dull, that you'd never do anything even if you found out. Then she walked away, and I stood there with proof in one hand and fire beginning to rise in the other. I sat alone on the floor of my brother's guest room, the envelope from Mara beside me and the flash drive plugged into my laptop like it held the final nails for a coffin I didn't want to bury. I clicked on the folder. Hundreds of files. Screenshots of messages, each one worse than the last. Him calling her babe, my wild girl, the better half. Her calling me the roommate, the sad one. Mr. Vanilla. It wasn't just cheating. It was targeted disrespect. The kind that guts you from the inside out and leaves your skin cold. But then I opened a PDF labeled Travel Itinerary Delaney plus C. At first, I didn't understand. It was a vacation booking. 5 nights at a luxury resort. 2 first-class plane tickets. The departure date? Just 2 weeks away. The destination? Turks and Caicos. My heart stopped. Not because of the trip. Not even because of the money. But because that week, that exact week, she told me she had a wellness retreat with her friends. She even showed me a fake itinerary. I remember it now. Spa logos. A clean schedule of yoga and digital detoxes. She'd even asked me to water the plants while she was gone. She had every lie rehearsed. But here's what made my blood go cold. The payment was processed through our joint credit card. The one we used for emergencies, the one I had been paying off alone while she cut back on spending. She used our money to plan a fantasy getaway with her affair partner, while I was still clipping coupons and skipping lunches to make ends meet. The real punch in the gut came next. Hidden inside a folder labeled Legal Docs was a draft. A separation agreement. Dated 3 months ago. She had been planning to leave me all along. But not before draining everything she could. The bank, the house, maybe even my dignity. She never confronted me because she didn't have to. In her mind, I'd just go quietly. Maybe even thank her for being honest one day. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark. Numb. I wasn't angry, not yet. I wasn't heartbroken. I was hollow, like a house that had already been looted and burned. But even then, even with all that proof, I didn't know what to do. Until the next morning, when someone sent me an anonymous message that cracked this entire thing wide open. It turns out Delaney's betrayal wasn't just romantic. It was criminal. The message arrived through an encrypted email address I didn't recognize. The subject line simply read, "You don't know the half of it." First, I thought it was spam. Some cruel internet troll who stumbled onto the wreckage of my life and wanted to stir the ashes. But something about the timing, just one day after Mara handed me the photos, after I uncovered Delaney's fake retreat, made my gut twist with a different kind of dread. I clicked it open. Inside was a single sentence. Check the consulting invoices in the folder titled Q2 Reports. Your name was forged. That was it. No signature. No explanation. Just a digital grenade tossed into my inbox. First, it made no sense. Then I remembered something. Delaney had started helping with the finances for our small business last year. I own a modest web design company, barely 5 clients, mostly referrals. When things got busy, she offered to organize the admin side. She said it was boring but necessary. I trusted her with passwords, billing software, tax documents. I never imagined I'd have to distrust my own wife. I opened the folder from our shared Google Drive. Q2 Reports. There they were, consulting invoices. 4 of them, all charged to companies I'd worked with, all bearing my digital signature, and each one routed to a private bank account I had never seen before. I opened the PDFs. The invoices looked legit, branding, itemized work, dates. But the payment info had been edited. Instead of going to my business account, the funds were directed to an account under the name D. Wells Consulting. Delaney's maiden name was Wells. Couldn't breathe. My entire face went hot. I pulled up my bank records. Sure enough, those payments never arrived in my books. Over $18,000 had been rerouted under my nose. She hadn't just been cheating on me. She'd been stealing from me and forging my signature to do it. I suddenly realized she wasn't just preparing to leave me. She was preparing to bleed me dry and vanish without a trace. The tropical vacation was probably just her trial run. The fake wellness retreat? A cover to finalize the account. And the worst part? If Mara hadn't shown up, if that anonymous email hadn't come through, I might have let her get away with it. That night, I backed up everything. Flash drives, screenshots, copies. I didn't know who sent that email, but they had just saved my life. And Delaney? She had no idea I knew. But she was about to find out. Because the next time I saw her, I'd be ready. I saw her 3 days later at our house. Well, what used to be our house. She didn't expect me there. I stood on the front porch, a manila envelope in one hand and a folder under my arm. When she opened the door, her smile was automatic. Fake, like always. But it faltered fast when she saw the expression on my face. For once, I didn't look confused or heartbroken. I just looked done. "Curtis," she said, tilting her head like I was overreacting. "You've been ignoring my messages." I handed her the envelope before she could finish. Inside, printed invoices, bank statements, forged signatures, and a copy of the anonymous email. Her eyes scanned the pages. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I simply said, "You stole from me. You lied to me. And you recorded yourself doing it like it was a joke. I'm not here for an explanation. I'm here to end it." She tried to spin it, said it was complicated, said she only did it because she felt unseen, and that she never meant to hurt me. But I didn't flinch. Not this time. I had already met with a lawyer. I had already frozen the joint accounts. I had already changed the locks. "I'm not the villain here, Curtis," she hissed as I walked away. I turned back and said the last words I'd ever speak to her. "No, but you're not the victim either." The divorce went through faster than I expected. The evidence was airtight. She walked away with a suitcase and a broken reputation. I kept my business, my peace, and somehow my dignity. And Mara? The woman who showed up at my door with the truth? We stayed in touch. At first, it was just emotional support, 2 broken people trying to understand the wreckage. But it turned into long conversations, shared healing, and eventually, something more. It's early and we're taking it slow. But it's real. And it's honest. I didn't win by hurting Delaney back. I won by walking away with my head high. If you'd told me months ago that I'd feel grateful for all of this, I would have laughed. But now, I see it for what it was, not the end, but the beginning. Have you ever had a betrayal turn into a blessing in disguise? Share your story in the comments. We read everyone. And don't forget to subscribe to Reddit Confessions for more stories of heartbreak, healing, and unexpected redemption.